So this week we got a question in from Connie from Tonasket, Washington. And she was wondering what the proper gear was to bring in your pack when you're going out hiking. So Jake came and found me in the office. We packed up our gear and we headed into the Rocky Mountain front to do some hiking. One of the first items I always bring is an extra insulation layer. Temperatures and weather change pretty quickly here in Montana, so I always like to have something warm and typically a rain shell with me as well. Next, I always put a headlamp in my pack because you never know if you're going to get sidetracked or decide to spend more time doing something that you didn't anticipate, so it's nice to not get stuck in the woods in the dark when you're making your way back to your car. Water and snacks are two other things that I always make sure that I'm packing. The amounts are going to depend on where I'm hiking and access to water and things, but definitely want to make sure that you have something to drink and that you have something to eat. And rounding out my pack, I typically have my first aid kit, has things for injury accidents, duct tape, usually a couple extra batteries for my headlamp. I also always have a knife or a multi-tool in my pocket because you never know when you're going to need to have access to something like that. And just because I'm here in Montana and a lot of areas that we do go hiking in, I usually have a can of bear spray with me as well. So that's kind of what I like to have in my backpack when I'm heading out for a long day hike, but let's go over and talk to Pat at Mountain Hardwear and see what he has to say on what he puts in his packs.
It's like the ultimate question, right? So it depends on what you're doing, right? For sure. I always think there's six things I think about though when I do a backpacking trip. And the first one, and this is like when I do clinics and I do training at stores. Most of these guys know this, but for consumers, I always say the first thing you say to somebody, and it's counterintuitive, but less is more. Like as light as you can be is the best experience you can have, because the heavier your pack is, the more uncomfortable you're going to be over a period of time. So like for me, step one is just always reminding myself that less is more, and just going through this, like I will lay out on my bed everything that I think I need for my trip, and then by the time I actually put that into my bag, about half of it is no longer coming with me. But I start at everything, and then I work my way down. The second thing you always have to think about is how much distance are you going, how fast are you wanting to do it, and how much time do you have? So I've gotten older now. I used to be the backpacker that would try and have the 30-pound pack or less for a multi-day journey and just be super light. So it allowed me to go very fast, but I wasn't very comfortable. Now that I'm getting older, I'm thinking a little bit more about comfort. We can talk about what that means, and then the most important thing, especially for people that are just getting into this, is safety. So what will always be in my pack, no matter what, without a doubt, is a small first aid kit. And in that first aid kit, the most important thing to have in that first aid kit is blister repair. Because this is what people don't think about. You buy these brand new boots and you're all ready to go, and you get out there, 10 miles in, and all of a sudden you've got these incredible blisters on your feet, and you're kind of in big trouble then. So if you don't have blister repair to go over that area, it can shut you down. It can really affect you, and it's really unsafe. So having blister repair with a first aid kit's big. Energy, you have to have like snack food, whatever that is. Water. A lot of people that backpack, they go, oh, there'll be water along the way, I'll pick it up. But I never, ever, ever go out with anything less than 60 ounces of water with me at all times. So, I always recommend that. It adds weight, but it's just a safety factor. And on the apparel side, whether you're going super light and trying to go fast, or you're want to be comfortable and take your time, there's like that Forrest Gump movie where he's in Vietnam and the Lieutenant Dan's like, socks, have good socks, have extra socks, lots of socks. Like I bring like extra. That's the only thing I have like way more than I need of are extra socks. So that helps with blisters. It helps when you get wet. It's just like I change them out all the time, especially when you're in more humid areas. And then on the gear side, the last piece of it really is just the tent, the sleeping bag, the sleeping pad, and this is like a little thing for people that haven't gone backpacking much, but you can have a sleeping bag that's 20 degrees, 0 degrees, 40 degrees, whatever. But if you don't have a pad to put underneath that sleeping bag in your tent, you can take a 20-degree sleeping bag and make it a 50-degree sleeping bag, meaning you're going to get cold and you're going to be miserable and it's not going to work. So sleeping pads are really, really important. Conditions, so like, after you've less is more yourself and after you've figured out how long you're going to be out there and after you have all your safety taken care of, then it's like, well, what's the weather report? That's so important. I would cold, hot, wet, right? Those are the three things that go through your brain, and those you just have to pack accordingly. We can talk about like how I think about that if you want, but that's just like really, really, really important. And if you know ahead of time, you can really lighten your load quite a bit as you plan for that. And the last thing is really, or the second to last thing is comfort or speed. I talked about it before, but you can lighten your load a lot so you can go faster. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be more comfortable. And now that I'm older, I bring things like I bring an extra squishy, comfortable sleeping pad. It takes up more space. It weighs a little bit more. I bring a nice down jacket at night so I can put it on around the campsite or the fire. I actually bring little slippers, like an old man slippers, so I don't have to wear my hiking boots at the campsite. I do little things like that. I've said, you know what, I want the extra weight. It's worth it to me. And then the last piece of it, and this is the biggest one, is after you've done all of that, and then it's like picking the right size pack and learning how to pack it. Because if you pack your bag wrong, no matter what you do, you're just going to be really uncomfortable.
So when you're thinking about what to put in your pack, you're definitely going to have those core essential items that you're going to bring on every trip, no matter what. Once you've got those, that's really when you need to start to think about and research where you're going and what you're doing, because it's going to be in those moments that you're going to identify those more specific items that you need to bring to customize your pack for the trip you're doing, because every weekend is going to be different. So bottom line is you just need to be prepared. That's what I do. So that's episode 35 of Ask North 40. If you guys are going to be getting out and going hiking or have any other questions, you can be sure to head down to your local North 40 or check us out at north40.com. Thanks.